And so it's really lovely to be here with you all. I'm sorry I missed you last week. I was just getting back from a retreat, so I should be here from here on out, for a while now. So a couple other quick announcements. Wednesday, the 31st of July, I'll be on an airplane that night, so I will not be here for the Wednesday meditation. So, but again, I'll be back for the rest of the Wednesdays. A big thank you to all those who offered a donation. A big thank you to Lisa, Tanya, Taylor, Ivy, Myrna, Chad, and Butch. Thank you truly. Somehow Chad figured a way to do like an ongoing donation, which I didn't know that was possible. So thank you, Chad, for that. I think I've been forgetting to tell you thank you. And so truly thank you for supporting the Sangha, the Dharma. And if anyone's interested in that, you can just visit my website, craigholliday.com, and there's a donate link. But it's wonderful to be supported by your generosity. So truly, from my heart to yours, thank you. Thank you. And there's all different ways people support the Sangha. And there's a fella in New York City named Nick, and he just sends me beautiful pictures of his artwork. And he's going through a very profound kundalini awakening, and he's making this incredible art, and it's flooding, his artistic gift. And, it makes me smile, when people just drop me a line, and just share, the goodness, that they're sharing in the world. And this is how the Dharma spreads, is through you stepping into your gift and sharing your gift, whatever that is. And sometimes your gift is just smiling to a friend, to a neighbor, to your partner, to your kids. And, this is how the world changes, is through us taking the path very seriously and giving of ourselves. Giving. So many of us on the path, we just want to receive, and that's okay too, because a lot of us are in pain. And when you're in pain, you want to receive love. And so the first important person you give to is yourself. So you take the time to love yourself, to heal yourself. And I think it was just last weekend, I guess, that I was on retreat or teaching retreat. And, this is one of the great themes, is taking time just to love oneself, to heal oneself. And there was a tremendous amount of grace that came, tremendous transmission that came on the retreat, and a lot of healing, a lot of emotion came up. A lot of people were, feeling upset and unnerved and, having difficult feelings in their body, or, I would say a thing or two and it would bring up some pain or confusion within their body. And, sometimes it was purely I said the wrong thing, which happens, of course. And then other times it was just, if I was speaking about Jesus or God, or I said the word Lord, and it would bring up people's, trauma that they had with the Catholic Church. And, I just want to stop and acknowledge that, while there has been tremendous trauma, with the Catholic Church, we don't want to throw Jesus out, who came before the church. we don't want to throw him out. And so if you notice, you have something like this within yourself, we want to have the willingness to sit with that, to look at that, to let that word, Lord, just burn in the light of awareness, and to awaken to something deeper, and to discover there's great beauty when you give yourself permission to open up to that which is greater. Now, if a teacher, is asking you to bow before their feet and submit to their authority, or say, this is the one and only truth, you should feel like, you just swallowed a bag of rocks. You should feel nauseous in your stomach, because someone is telling you something, that should make you sick. That should make you sick. The truth is radically inclusive. It's not divisive. It's not divisive. And so, the title for tonight's talk, if I can remember, is truth. Knowing the truth, living the truth in a difficult world. In a difficult world. And I like to take stories from my life because, some people have this idea, that when you reach some level of attainment on the path, that you no longer experience pain. And so I like to, dispel that belief, that thought. And just acknowledge we live in a difficult world. We live in a difficult world. And it's important, just to acknowledge this and to be able to love oneself enough to take the time to give your body downtime simply to heal. When your body is in a relaxed state, healing just spontaneously occurs. And many of you may have had this experience of just being very relaxed. Then out of nowhere, tears start to bubble up to the surface and you start and you're like, why is this coming forward? I'm so relaxed. This happens often on retreat, is you'll be in a very peaceful place, a very safe place. And then all of a sudden, old pain starts to come forward. And you may think you're being punished or you did something wrong, but that's not the case. It's when we're in a very safe place, old pain comes forward. Oftentimes old anxiety or fear. And it's good to see this and to meet it, meet it deeply with love and clarity. When you have love, clarity, and a willingness to sit with something, and so this is, head, heart, gut, clarity, love, and the willingness to sit with, that's gut. Then we will heal deeply. If we don't have a willingness, to sit with something deeply, oftentimes things will come forward, but then we'll be scared of it, and then we'll spin out stories in our mind about what happened or what shouldn't have happened. And then next thing you know, we'll just, put the brakes on our own healing process. And so in order to heal and in order to wake up, you have to know how to sit with your experience with clarity. That means you don't get lost in the story. With love, that means there's a willingness here to be with, to hold, to embrace difficult feelings. And then, this deep strength in the gut, which we call in Zen strong back. Having a strong backbone. I'm sitting with. I'm having the courage to sit with something for a long period of time. Sometimes things heal very quickly, but if it's, if it's buried deep within us, if there's many layers to it, it requires that we sit with something for a long period of time. You're not going to heal all your karma that you have with your parents in one meditation, unless your parents were, almost perfect. And the same is true, like we're not going to fully wake up through just sitting once in meditation and say, I surrender all. We have to sit with clarity, open our heart, meet our entire life with love, and be willing to sit in this truth for the extent of our life, if we want to truly wake up and be, quote unquote, enlightened. To be enlightened means to be awake. To be awake is something that happens in the present moment, which means we must be awake and choosing to be awake. And you stop being awake when you make a choice otherwise. You choose to pick up karma and get lost in your story, your thoughts, or an old argument with this person or that person. And it happens to the best of us, myself included. Sometimes I pick up old arguments. And when I see myself doing that, I realize, oh, I have some work I have to do there. Can I love the very aspect of self that feels insecure? Normally, an old argument comes forward and repeats itself again and again because there's something within us it's unresolved and we feel insecure. But when we sit with that very experience with love, not trying to sort it out in our head, but just love, seeing it from the big picture, oftentimes there's a greater clarity that says it's time to put that down and actually feel and acknowledge the pain that's underneath it. As you feel and acknowledge the pain of what's underneath whatever it is that's disturbing you, it will spontaneously begin to release. And sometimes that takes a breath. Sometimes that takes 1,000 breaths. And so I'll tell you a funny story, maybe not so funny, but about this weekend. And somewhere near the end of the story, I'm going to say something that's not true. And I'm going to invite you to feel into your belly and just notice if you can acknowledge, what's not true here. What's not true. Because if we want to be awake on the path, we have to be able to discern in real time. And your gut will tell you when someone's not speaking the truth. Now, your mind may plague you with doubt, where we're inherently skeptical about everything anyone may say. So that's different than your gut being able to discern, or your heart being able to discern what's not the truth. And this is going to be a little bit difficult for me because my job here, during satsang, I guess my job for my life is to speak the truth, to share the truth. But the meaning of satsang is to meet in truth. To meet in truth. And so I'm going to see if I can remember to say something that's not true. But I'll say it near the end. And so, near the end of my story. And so this weekend, I just out of nowhere, Saturday morning, I just looked at my wife and I said, "Hey, do you wanna go camping?" And she said, "Yeah." And so we quickly loaded up we have a very old van, and so we loaded up the old van, and I threw the paddle boards on top, and I put, I started to, load up some bicycles too, and it was starting to look, a little silly, what my mom would call hillbilly, what we might call in Colorado being a gearhead, when you have like all kinds of, way too many toys attached to your vehicle. Sometimes in Colorado, people will have a $1,000 car with a $3,000 bike on top. And I do have a $1,000 van, and I had a bike on there, and a couple paddle boards. I certainly didn't pay $3,000 for a bicycle, though. I don't do that kind of thing, nor do I have that kind of money. But anyways, when I started to load up the bicycle, I just, it started to get a little complicated. And I just heard in my heart, in my belly, like, this is too much. Like, you're just taking too much stuff. Paddle boards are enough. But I was a little stubborn, and so, I put the hitch on and, put on this, it's one of those things where it hangs off the back and you can attach a bunch of bikes. And, I couldn't find my daughter's training wheels for her bike, and it just started getting more and more complicated. But I said, all right, at least I'll take my bike. I'll just throw that on there. And we all hopped in the car. I packed kind of hastily for myself. And then we went away, camped out in the mountains of Telluride, and right above Trout Lake, this just exquisite lake. Again, I think I spoke about this last time. It might be one of the most beautiful little lakes. It's definitely one of the most beautiful in Colorado, if not the country. Wonderful place to paddleboard, and it's just like these mountains surrounding just this beautiful lake. And the lake is fed by a mountain stream. It's just so gorgeous. And went on the lake last night, this morning. And after a wonderful weekend, of camping out, seeing the hugeness of the sky and the Milky Way galaxy, which is so pristine, and all these stars and planets and UFO type stuff floating around in the sky. After a beautiful weekend of all this, I loaded up the paddleboard I got one on the roof rack. And then I, hopped up on the van to get the second one on. I don't have a ladder, and so I literally like climb up the face of the van using my strength and ignorance simultaneously. And I started to climb up the front, and I don't know what gave first, is either my footing or my fingertips. And next thing you know, like I was on the hood of the van, and I fell completely backwards and landed. I landed on my spine. I rung my bell, which means made my brain shake, which doesn't feel good. And I just sat there for a moment and I said, wow, like what just happened? And if I was a different man, I could have had the thought, God is punishing me for my sins. Or maybe God is just punishing me in general. The world is a terrible place. Why does this always happen to me? But, I like to be an awake man. And an awake man, an awake being might say, oh, when you're climbing on a car, be careful. Be more careful. Make sure you hold on tighter. Maybe buy a ladder. If you've ever seen these RVs and they have ladders that go up the side, which is, a perfectly wise thought. And so when you stay with the truth, you don't look at suffering as you're being punished. You can just admit that there's, things happen here on planet Earth. Things happen. And so, I was out in the wilderness and, away from a cell phone, away from cell service. At that exact moment, my daughter, she was involved in a car accident. She was involved in a car accident. Now, she was, a couple hours away in Durango, and she was trying to reschedule a flight. She's going to go visit some friends in Chicago this week. And she got a really bad flight, and so she Googled Expedia on her phone. She clicked on the link that came up for Expedia, like a Google AdWord, if you've ever seen those. And she started speaking with a man who was very bossy right away. He told her, yes, he could change her ticket, that she needed. Sorry. He told her that she needed to go to the supermarket and buy a Google, what is it called, a gift card to pay her, to pay him so that she could change her ticket. And basically she got involved in an elaborate scam where she gave money to someone over the phone. Someone she met on the internet. She thought it was Expedia, but it wasn't. And I mean, we all get these phone calls throughout the day, but sometimes it's different. When you click on a link on a website and you think it's to the right thing, but it just brought up a phone number for her. So she clicked on that link and got the wrong, basically it sent her to a call center that takes people's money all day long. After she gave the man on the phone the gift card, he said, oh, you didn't say the right number. Can you enter it again? Can you go inside and buy another gift card and I'll refund your money after the fact? And I asked her about this after, and she got really frustrated inside. She was driving while she was doing this, and she ran into a pole. She backed into one, not going too fast, but enough to, maybe destroy a car. And so she was busy calling me, and, I was in a place that's, out of cell range. It's funny, at the same moment, me and her, our karma was linked, or the universe linked us, and I was having a little accident. She was having an accident. And later that day, when I got back in cell range, I got a hold of her and drove and went to find her. And, I basically, asked her, like, well, what did you feel in your gut when the guy, like, when did you know the first moment you were being scammed? And she said, after he told me to reread the card, I knew I read the card correctly. And then she said, and then he went to tell me to go buy a new one, and that's when I knew it was a scam. But the two of them stayed on the phone and kept arguing with each other for, another like 25 minutes, and got her mother involved, and then the three of them were yelling at each other, and the guy was saying that he was going to cancel her flight altogether if he didn't go get her another gift card. And so, basically I just asked her when I saw her, like, first, of course, are you okay? Her body was okay. She was very anxious, though, because she had been wrecked her car and involved in an elaborate scam. And, I just asked her to sit with that question, like, when do you know? When did you know someone was lying? When did you know? When did you know that he was lying? And she told me. And then she went on to say that her friend in Chicago, I think it was Chicago, but her friend across the country also ran into a pole that day. And so that's when I told her things happen in three. Bad things happen in threes. It's very common on the path that bad things happen in threes. This happened with my mother when my dad died. My dad died, and then, a couple days later, the neighbor across the street, like across the way, her husband died as well. And so my mom got a knock on the door from the other neighbor, and the other neighbor said, Peggy, bad things happen in threes. My husband's going to die next. And so it's hard for me not to give it away, but everything I said in this story was true, except for at the end when I talked about bad things happening in threes. And so I want you to just to notice, if any of you caught that, did you just give yourself to the teaching fully and just receive it all with great trust and blind faith? Or did you have some level of discernment there at the end where you saw that Craig stepped out of the truth and started telling you that bad things happen in threes? And so, I encourage you, it's fun, to listen, to develop the skill of having a big open heart, of being trusting, being receptive, but also having in your back pocket discernment. Whoever you're listening to. Yeah, Ivy said that she was on to me. She knew. And so it's good to have discernment on this path. And it's not that, like spiritual teachers are out to just lie to you and get their hands in your pocketbook. It's not that, people try to deceive you. Oh, well, sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. But generally speaking, when you listen to a Dharma talk, when you show up to Satsang, I'm going to encourage you to listen with an open heart, to be receptive, to trust, but also to have discernment. The teachers that I studied with, mostly were excellent. Like my root teacher, David, just had impeccable integrity. My other teacher, Ajashanti, impeccable integrity. And so, because of that, I could just open and listen and receive and know it was the truth. The best I could do with these two fellows was, just ask, does this teaching have to do with me and my life in this moment? Because, everything they were saying was true. Now, I've been to other teachers. I've been to healers. I've been to psychics before. And that's, where I'm really going to have, a great sense of discernment. And I'm going to be feeling in my belly and just noticing. And you don't have to, listen with tension. That's called skepticism. You listen with openness. And when you hear something that's not true, like there was only one, there was one and only Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord, the one and only Savior, you'll notice you start to feel limited inside. Now, I will bow before, Christ all day long. Absolutely will. But the one and only Savior, that's the part where I'll throw out, I'll put it to the side and say, okay, whoever is teaching that they're teaching from a divided place along the path. And so, when I was with my daughter today, after she got in her accident, sometimes when you've been shooken up, you just think that, um, that this life is the worst, the universe out to get to you. She was saying a couple things like this. And, again, I just gently help to calm her, to soothe her. And then if I ask her, do you really think that God is out to get you or life is out to screw with you or whatever? She says no. She says no. So when you're calm, it's much easier to see the truth and to discern the truth. It's easier to know the truth. But when you're worked up, it's very difficult to be able to discern the truth. And see, we live in a difficult world. After I rung my bell today, which I'll say that differently, after I fell, from, I was, let's see how high I was about 5 feet in the air. So my feet were 5 feet up. So almost up, probably up to my throat area or a little bit lower. And when I just fell completely back and hit my spine, my head hurt really bad. As I drove my family home. So for a couple hours, I had intense pain in my head. Feeling better now, but intense pain. And when you have a lot of pain in your body, it tells you things. Your body will tell you things that aren't true. I can't handle this. This is too much. This is terrible. Whatever it is. I mean, for me, oftentimes when it's pain, it's just like screaming at me, the pain. But sometimes there's just nothing you can do. I don't take pills, so I just sit with the pain. I open to it, hear the scream, and allow it to release in the spaciousness of the moment. Invite the body to calm down, to come back to a place of peace. Because I know about healing. If I listen to my thoughts, probably tell me I need to jump off a bridge or something crazy. When you're in pain, sometimes we just have thoughts like that, or I need to take a pill that probably isn't good for me. So anyways, I thought I'd just share a little bit, about my fun weekend, and I just turned it into a little bit of a teaching on discernment, on knowing the truth, living the truth in difficult times. Because I get so many emails from people and talk to so many people that think when something difficult happens that they're being punished, that this means they're doing something wrong. And sometimes it's true that we're doing the wrong thing, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're being punished. We don't live, in a universe with a God who wants to punish us. We do live in a universe on a planet that is an evolutionary world, and that means life will be evolutionary. It'll be difficult. It'll be confusing at times. And we grow sometimes through pain. Like I learned today, I need to buy a ladder for my van. And I shouldn't just try to climb up a slick surface because it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And so anyways, so I have some questions. And of course, I welcome questions. If anyone here has anything they want to share or ask or correct. Of course, if anyone wants to ask a question, I'm happy to get to that. And so let me just look at my first one here. Okay. This person is writing, Craig, I knocked my head this morning and went into tears. Just feel like sometimes to call attention, sometimes it's just to call attention to something that I don't understand with my head. I hope you feel better, Craig. I'm sorry this happened to your daughter, but also I understand that it was a scam. 2 days ago, someone was trying to take money from us. I'm sorry all these things happen, but it is the power of strength and love that sustains us. Yes, this is so true. See, this is beautiful. And so like this person is writing, like when we come face to face with difficulty, when bad things happen to good people, it builds tremendous strength, tremendous character in you. If you can do the right thing when the wrong thing happens, when you can choose to love when you've been harmed. Like the man who took advantage of my daughter for money. If I feel into his consciousness right now, I feel someone who's deeply hurting, deeply insecure, someone who's struggling to make it here on planet Earth, and who's resorting to taking advantage of people. I don't have the thought or belief that people are inherently evil or bad. Oftentimes the reason people take advantage of us is because they are in great pain. And if we can respond with love and strength, our heart grows. We deepen on the path. Now, of course, it also means we learn from our experience. We're wise. We have boundaries. And so I never condone, staying with someone who's like abusive. If they truly are abusive, and I don't mean if someone just hollers at you because they're angry, that means they're abusive. If they do that consistently, yes, we can call them abusive. You set a boundary, leave the situation. If your husband or wife or son or daughter, gives you hell every now and then, sometimes that's normal. That's normal. So we stay, we learn to love each other deeply. If they do it consistently where they are abusive, then we leave. And so I always like to clarify that. And so, thanks so much for sharing. Vishal, I'd love to get to your question. Let me just do this other one real quick, which came in on an email. This is through Pierre, and then Vishal, you can get your thoughts together, just as concise as possible. So this question comes in from Pierre. He writes, Craig, I've been doing spiritual work over a period of time, but this is something I cannot find support for in my group. And by that, I think he means his local Sangha or perhaps an online spiritual group he's a part of. He said, it started about a year ago in my throat. It feels like it's moved past that point. I feel like I have all this kundalini in my body, and it's moving up through the throat. It's happening all the time at malls, airplanes, and today while I'm driving. The anxiety that it brings is too much. My thoughts turn to doom during these times, and it's very difficult, if not impossible, for me to control. I'm going to set up a session with you, Craig. Okay. But hopefully you can offer me some advice or guidance in the meantime. Yeah. And so, life can be difficult, whether we, do something silly like, fall off a bike or get in a car accident or do what I did today is, something silly, try to climb up a van and fall off, the hood of the van. When we start to awaken on the spiritual path, sometimes a lot of energy awakens. There's different types of awakening, but when people have a strong energetic awakening, it can be overwhelming. And so you must have support. You must have a teacher. You must be meeting with someone who actually knows how to offer you support. Without these things, you can have tremendous anxiety. Some people will go into temporary states of psychosis at times. You can just feel just overwhelmed inside. And the big thing is to breathe, not to believe your thoughts, and let the energy flow through your body. That's the basic teaching, is to breathe. Don't believe the thoughts that come with the anxiety, and do everything you can to self-soothe and relax your nervous system. As you do so, you'll find that this energy of anxiety simply turns into the energy of aliveness, of luminosity, and you'll start to feel a stream going up your spine. And it's quite incredible. It's quite incredible and very healing. Now, it took me about, if I include, my whole training in this, about 12 years to figure that out. And so, Pierre, I don't want you to think that, I'm just going to tell you a quick 1, 2, 3 thing, and then you'll be able to be completely healed and you just breathe through it and everything will be just fine. If it's true kundalini awakening, it's going to be a big deal and you need support. I met with my teachers hundreds of times, literally. So we need to retrain the nervous system to trust, to open, to relax. The same way we have to retrain the mind to trust, to open and relax to something greater, whether it's a greater expression of oneself, a greater experience of oneself, a greater perspective than ego. We need to learn to trust, to open, to relax. And so we learn this, in the head, the heart, the emotional nature. We learn it deep in the belly. We learn it purely in the nervous system if it's kundalini. And so it's good to have support, repeated support along the way. And so, Pierre, breathe, feel, relax. And just notice you have a lot of energy in your body, but you're not crazy. You're not crazy. You're not losing your mind. It's just a lot of feeling. Spiritual awakening should feel like you're opening to something greater and you're letting go into something greater. With a normal, healthy ego, that experience of you letting go of control will cause anxiety. With a very unhealthy ego, that's already inherently insecure, the experience of opening to something greater will cause a lot of anxiety, a lot of anxiety. And so again, breathe, relax, open, trust, feel, and let go. And of course, by all means, have discernment always. I like to carry, my back pocket, discernment and humility. With these two, it'll keep us safe on the path. Discernment and humility. And so great question, my friend. Okay, Vishal, if you are here, there you are. I think you can unmute yourself and you could ask your question.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Craig. It has been brought to my attention. It's been brought to my attention many times, I think even by you, but quite recently, I've been told by a couple of friends that there is this sort of unwillingness or perhaps inability to fully receive all the happiness and love that there is, to be given. I don't know, it's just funny though, because I feel like, honestly, I've never been happier. That 10 years ago, I just couldn't imagine even being this happy. And I don't know, but I see what they're getting at. But I just can't seem to tune into this frequency of receiving more love, more happiness than what I've already got. But I also, sorry.
Well, a moment ago, you said something like, I see what they mean.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell me that? Tell me, what do you see that they mean?
I mean, I guess on a material level, like, yeah, no, there is this sort of, I don't know, it's almost like okay, for example, just recently, like maybe a couple of days ago, I had a former colleague invite me to work in Greece on a theatrical production. And my friend, she noticed I almost immediately was looking up excuses to turn it down.
Were you?
I almost did. I'm still considering it, and like, of course, I have to see more details, but like, just she, yeah.
But did you notice that like you described, that there was something within you that was looking for reasons to turn it down?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Yeah. So this person asked you. I think you said she asked you if you'd like to, be a part of this theatrical production in Greece.
Yeah.
And then either she noticed or you noticed that you were looking for reasons to turn it down. Is that true? Were you looking for reasons to be skeptical, like overly skeptical?
Well, yeah, one reason immediately came to mind, and
What was that?
I have my cousin's wedding in the middle of the month and a half or so of rehearsal and performance. But yeah, I think like several hours later, actually after I talked to another friend, I realized, hold on, that could easily be worked around,
Yeah.
or perhaps, also perhaps I could, it's my cousin's wedding, and do what it is that I truly love to do. But
Yeah.
it felt, I don't know, it just felt selfish to some extent.
What felt selfish?
To consider not going to a family event without, a wedding without, for my own personal gain, for my own, just for me, for something that I love to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, Vishal, if we truly want to be happy, we have to honor ourselves first and foremost. And I want to be very specific here. I'm not talking about an egoic need. If you're going to miss your cousin's wedding to go, I don't know, chase girls or shop for like a new sports car or something silly like that, it'd be like, hey man, like maybe you should go to the wedding. And the teaching would be, to take care about others first and not, your big fat ego. But see, God gave you this gift, and part of your gift is to perform. It's a main aspect of your gift. And so it's not being selfish when you choose to share your heart with the world. What you're actually doing, I'll be like a good Christian here, is I'll say, you're being obedient to the Lord. You're being obedient to the truth, to use like non-dual language. You're choosing to serve the Most High when you choose to put your gift, your truth, above all else. Now, for individuals who know me personally, I've been very good at missing weddings. I rarely go to a wedding. In fact, I'm 40-something years old, and I've only been to a couple weddings in my entire life. And when my friends were busy getting married, oftentimes what I was doing is I was with my teacher, busy on a hillside in the hot sun, building a temple. Hell, my wife just went on a big family vacation, and I could have been on a lake in California, a big family vacation, racing around in a speedboat, but I was teaching a retreat. And I said, this is what I'm doing. And there's no offense in any way to her family. I don't know if they took any. They may have. But my truth was, I'm teaching a retreat. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. And it's not, it wasn't selfish at all, me sharing my gift. It was me working, basically for God, working for the truth. And I encourage you to do the same. And so if you want to be happier than you've ever been, what you discover is happiness is you sharing your gift with the world. That's what provides true happiness. Chasing material things, never leads to happiness. I spoke about this last time. Is like I love motorcycles, but a new shiny one, a real fast one, that's not going to make me happy. What makes me happy is sharing the truth, sharing what I am with life. Sharing, living the truth. And so, part of receiving, if it were to use that term of like receiving happiness, receiving love, part of receiving is the willingness to look inside and receive the beauty, the goodness, the innocence of your own heart, and then bring that heart forward and we share it with the world. It's a different kind of receiving than most people speak about. Oftentimes we think about receiving something good, receiving a hug from a friend or whatever, but to show you something so beautiful about you. And I encourage you to share that with the world. It's you receiving you, you loving you. And the first person on the path that we must honor is ourself. And again, I'm not speaking about anything egoic. I'm speaking about you sharing and giving of yourself fully. And see, giving and receiving are so intimately linked. And when you give fully, you're receiving fully as well. It becomes quite non-dual. And I will just say this energetically. Before you were speaking, and you mentioned happiness, even though you said I'm happier than I've ever been in this lifetime. I did feel, some sadness there. And it's just good to acknowledge that. We may be on top. Yeah, about the sadness. We may be on top of our game, in all kinds of different ways, in a great place in life, and this and that. But like when we're truly sharing of ourselves, we normally don't feel sad. We tend to feel incredible. And if we do have sadness come forward, it's normally tears of joy. Tears of joy. And so I don't know if it was, just something inside that said, I want to share more. I want to give of myself more. Or if there was old, pain, that wasn't being fully acknowledged, one of them or both of them, or, maybe it's your heart just saying like, I want to go and I want to share and I want to love and I want to be. And, this is, it's an aspect of spiritual awakening that most people don't think about is, spiritual awakening is not about you receiving bliss and just sitting on a private bliss cloud. Spiritual awakening is really about you coming into alignment with your highest self. And then right away, God puts you to work. It's about you being you, you sharing you, you loving you, you serving you in all of life. In all of life. And because when we start doing this, we understand what surrender is. Surrender means I listen to the truth in my heart. And the truth in my heart is saying, I want to go and I want to perform. That's why it feels so good in your heart. It feels so good because when we're living the truth, our heart tends to feel good for the most part, unless we're facing difficulty, which, then the truth is this is difficult, but I love myself enough to go forward. But generally speaking, when you serve your gift, when you listen inside, your heart should light up. And so that's the universe saying yes. That's your heart saying yes. That's God saying yes. And it is not a selfish thing to give your life to life. We may think that this gift belongs to us, but this gift actually belongs to God. It belongs to life. And it's our job to be obedient to it, to serve this gift, to serve the truth. And so you with me, my friend?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so is there anything else you want to share there or correct or straighten me out at all?
No, it's all really resonating. I actually had an acting, one of my acting teachers told me recently, that he's referring to theater. He's like, this is your joy. And if you don't deprive yourselves of your joy. And you just kind of reminded me of that. But,
yeah. And, if, when we choose to deny our gift, inside we should begin to feel depressed. That's how the heart works, because the heart is like a big truth meter. If you deny your gift, your truth, you should begin to feel depressed. Sometimes it's immediately. Sometimes you'll feel nauseous. Sometimes you'll feel like you swallow a bag of rocks. But you should feel like garbage. This idea that this teaching that the truth sets us free, I mean, that's how it works. It sets us free, but sometimes people think it sets us free and puts us in a private bliss cloud. No, oftentimes the truth puts us free, and we're free to go to work. And by that I mean sharing our gift with the world. And it's like Christ, he was free. God put him to work. God gave him difficult work, but he was free. He was free to do the work. He's free because he had that old teaching that most people, they get really confused by. Let the dead bury the dead. And by that he didn't mean we don't go to funerals, we don't go to weddings, we don't honor like a beautiful ceremony like a wedding. He didn't mean it like that. Let the dead bury the dead. What he was meaning by this is like, let the collective consciousness, like, let them bury themselves. I'm a man of truth. I'm going to live in the truth. I'm going to live my life, which is God's life. And this is all of our jobs, is to live this truth. And like I said, I've missed a lot of weddings and bachelor parties and all that shenanigans that people get involved in. And like, I can think of maybe 3 weddings I've been to in my whole life. And I'm just normally not there. It's not because I don't care. It's because oftentimes the truth is just put me in a different place. That, hey, I need you to do something different. I need you to do something different. When my friends invite me to the bachelor party, it's like, I'm not there. That's not the truth. One bachelor party I've ever been to in my life was on a river, and I about drowned. That was the first time I almost drowned. God was saying, hey, I was never a drinker, so I just want to be clear, but all the friends on the boat were drinking, and whitewater rafting is what we were doing. And God was just telling me, hey, like, this isn't for you. This isn't for you. And I knew that. I knew that getting into it, because I knew my old buddies, and I knew they were trouble, and I just knew. And I'll hang out with them and have a heart-to-heart talk and just, be sweet with each other, but I don't need to get involved in trouble. And so anyways, I hope that helps, my friend. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And so you go forward and share your gift with the world. It's beautiful what you are. And see this, like, I really encourage you to see it. This is your path. This is your dharma. This is your dharma. I know you're a student of non-duality, and sometimes the path of non-duality can get a little weird, can say the world is an illusion and this and that, and it's all just a great play. And there's, from one perspective, that's absolutely true. From a different perspective, you're here to share yourself fully and to serve this world, to serve the little kid in you, to serve, the God consciousness in you. And I encourage you to walk in that direction. So it's good to see you, my friend. Don't be a stranger. And I'm going to just look in the comments here and see if there's any more questions. Richard, why don't you come forward? And sorry, it's near the end, but Richard, you want to ask your question real quick, or you could save it for next time?
Yeah, I'll save it for next time.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Richard, I didn't see you there till the end when I was looking.
Where's it up?
Yeah. So anyways, it's been my absolute pleasure to be here with you all. To sit in the space of satsang and to really investigate what the truth is. What the truth is. How can you live, from the highest place within you? I spent, most of my young adult life living from, just like being a punk, being a screwball, being, grew up when I was real young on a skateboard, just messing around and breaking the rules and this and that. But as I grew older, I realized there's got to be another way to live than just rebelling against life. There's got to be another way to live. And so I spent a lot of time, just trying to see what is actually the truth. What would be my highest expression? I've certainly lived enough of my life being the lowest expression of Craig. And so now I'm trying to live from something greater. And there's many days when I do it less than. But, I get up again and I try. I try to open my heart and invite God. I invite life to straighten me out. To straighten me out in the truth. To show me a greater way to live. And so thank you all for sharing this journey with me. I look forward to seeing you all next week. And for those of you who want to support the Sangha, you can visit my website, craigholliday.com, offer a donation. And that's one way. Another way is to share your heart, share your gift with the world. And the Dharma spreads throughout creation. And so, may peace be with you all. And may you all have a wonderful evening. Good night.